Welcome to our Academic Skills video series hosted by me, your favourite librarian. This video is going to explore how to go about reading the sources that you have found during your research. I'm not implying here that you don't know how to read, but reading for assignments and study is different to, say, reading for pleasure. So we're going to think about this in more detail. To start, you need two different things. The first may seem very obvious, but it is sources to read. If you are unsure how to go about finding sources, do take a watch of the How to Find Sources video for some handy tips. You also need to have a solid system for recording your findings as well as your ideas. There isn't a point undertaking a load of scholarly reading if you cannot remember what you read. The horror! If you are unsure how to record your sources, fear not. You can watch the How to Record Sources video to help. Okay, plugs done. Confident you have both your sources to read and a way to record your reading? Then let's get this show on the road. When thinking about reading, a simple fact is true. The more you read something, the more you understand it. Think about a text you have read. This could be a chapter of a textbook, a set text you may be studying in school, or even an essay or poem you really like. The more you've read this text, the more that you've got from it. By this, I mean you will have understood the concepts better, thought of other things you can link this information to, and critically considered the ideas or concepts raised within it in more detail. We are going to think about reading using a three-step approach. This may seem like overkill, but this approach will allow you to understand your text to a much greater degree. Our first read is going to be a skim read. As the name suggests, this is where we skim over the text. The purpose of this read is to gain a general oversight as to what a text is about. To help with this, it is useful to pay special attention to the introduction and conclusion of the book, book chapter, or article. The reason for this is because this is where the author will outline what they are going to be writing about and then reflecting on what they've written. Pay special attention to these. You may also find some terms you don't understand in your skim read. If so, note these down and after you have finished your skim, check out the meaning of these and make a note. Our second read is going to be a summary read. This is when you're going to read the text again in more detail and take your notes. Do you need to record any key quotes, dates, or statistics? Now is the time to do so. This is also where you should record your thoughts on your reading. How does this link to the focus of your assignment, as well as to other texts that you have read? Our last read cannot be done immediately. Steep means to let something soak. In this case, we want the information from our text to have soaked into our brain. Give yourself a period of time away from a text, normally a few days, and then read over it again. You will have even more ideas and thoughts to record, as behind the scenes your brain has been building links between things you already know. This three-step model will help you to get the most out of a text you are using in your assignments. On this slide, I have the blurb from the Cambridge Introduction to Toni Morrison. A blurb is the text you find on the back of a book which tells you what it's about. This is a great way to get an oversight to the ideas and concepts it's going to cover, so you should make use of it. Pause this video and read over what the book's blurb says. Well done! As you will have discovered, this book is going to consider narrative techniques and probably link this to other forms of writing such as song lyrics. By reading this short blurb, I can easily gain some reference points for what this book is going to be about, which will have already set me up for an even more useful skim read. Articles don't have blurbs, but they do have abstracts, which work in the same way. They provide us with a short and snappy overview to what an article is about. I want you again to pause this video and read over the abstract. Good. You will have seen that this article is going to be working within a historical context, whilst also considering pop culture. Again, By reading a short paragraph, I have a clearer idea of what my text is going to be about before I start reading. Ideal. There may be times when you struggle to understand what you are reading, but fear not. There are two useful things to try. First, make sure you have ironed out any misunderstandings with the terms and words used. This is especially applicable if you are reading historical sources, which may well have words that have changed meaning over time. Better to have a quick check on the OED, which we have a subscription to make sure your definition is correct. I'm going to break something to you now. Reading the introduction and conclusion isn't a spoiler. This isn't the same as in a fiction book where the clever twist might be spoiled if you read the last paragraph at the beginning. If you're struggling to get to grips with a source, read over the introduction and conclusion again. You could also try to summarize each paragraph into a sentence and then read these sentences to give a general overview to the content. If, after doing the above and having worked through our three-step reading model of skim, summarize and steep, you still don't understand your text, it may mean you shouldn't be reading it right now. Park it and you may well find you can come back to it at a later date when you have a better understanding of this topic area. I hope this has helped you to think more about how to approach reading your sources. To end, I'm going to throw down some top tips to keep in mind when reading. Firstly, don't start with a close read. You will get bogged down in the details and may well struggle to follow what the text is trying to tell you. Start with a skim read and pay special attention to that introduction and conclusion. Secondly, make use of abstracts and blurbs. They aren't put on the back of books or in article descriptions for decoration. They help to provide a framework for what the source is about, so take a read. Lastly, remember that everyone is here to help you. You can speak to your teacher if you're struggling with your reading. You are, of course, always welcome to drop into the library or book a one-to-one meeting with me using the Book a Librarian tile. Do also take a watch of our other videos in the skills series to help hone your academic skills further. Happy reading!